So I'm not exactly sure about what this game is, but I found it on itch.io. It's been out for a bit, apparently. Um, Not really that long. It's only one update, but still. Saw a couple reviews saying it was good. I don't very much trust people that read VNs and their estimate of what is good or not, but thought I'd try. Give you guys new content besides just Echo. So, yeah. I don't even really know what this is about because I didn't really read it, I just downloaded it. Oh boy. Same as always. When I can actually choose an name and I'm not given one immediately. Which I honestly prefer. It makes a lot more sense than, oh, I don't know, it leads to better writing. I'm sure you feel more attached to your characters, maybe. If you're good at writing, you'll still feel attached to the character you did. So, like with Gray, or I felt attached to writing in the first one. Like, very fast. It was kind of incredible. Unless you remember how hesitant I was about that one. So, this is surprising. Just like a cold in my back, probably get stuff from this arm around behind me, playing in bed. Girl, I call it a dark room. Is it wine already? Unfortunately so, Alex. Reluctantly, oh. Okay. Better not be any nakedness, because I have to pause that then. Well, I wrote my wife Marshall. Interesting. He's in the middle of fastening his pants, not yet fully clothed. Okay. Oh, of course he's in love. Of course he is. What was I expecting? This is furry VNs we're talking about. People just are obsessed with those wolf boys. Fucking hell. Thanks a lot, Ad Astra. Poob. A drink in the side of his hat. Yeah, cool. Straight rays of sunlight peeking through the curtains and... yeah, neat. At least he got a nice seat to comfort me. Tried to smile, Tom's in his face, me over in my bed. I am not reading these properly. Christ almighty. Not as nice as mine. Fucking hell. The bed over and took a place of kiss on my forehead. Oh. Cute. A brief flash of surprise, but dissipates quickly, and I see his smile widen. Of course he does. Both finger there, neither wanting to break the moment. A small growl comes from his stomach, put an end to the passion moment for it with a laugh. Sounds like someone's hungry. Oh no. Oh no, no. No, it wouldn't be. It wouldn't be if it was the actual story of the end. And the reads I saw were kind of... It was like, one of them was like, I'm glad it just doesn't go straight to the butt fucking, so hopefully that holds true. I don't know if it will, but I guess we'll see. If it does, then this isn't being uploaded, because yeah. It's a fun camera, some growl and a clear act of betrayal. Marshall laughs at the sound. Seems like I'm not the only one. Brushes back to the closet and pulls out one of his navy blue button-up work shirts. Oh, cool, it's actually a neat art style. I like that. Small disappointment makes me out of his clothes. Oh, shut up, you horny bitch. You sure we can't just go back to bed? Your spot is still warm. Or my hand on the side of the bed have you seductive, so my drooping eyelids and definite bedhead. How the fuck? Wouldn't that be your entire body if you were furry? The fuck? He ponders to participant the question before shaking his head. Sorry, I was practicing to make itself. Let out a long, over-dramatic sigh as you see a spark of mischief in Marshall's eyes. I'll go get the coffee started. Oh, coffee. That should be enough to make sure you don't burn the omelets again. Coffee's honestly like the nectar of the fucking gods. Yes, he hastily exits the room, giggling to himself, disappearing from my eyeline. Eyesight shouldn't be eyeline, before I had a chance to throw a pillow at him. It only happened once. Go after him, learn my assault weapon. Of course. But does the player character have a species or not, or what the fuck's going on here, and why was this given good reviews? This seems really, like, typical for this genre of VNs. You know, it just seems very typical. I'll lay there for a few more moments, get a little energy I can before throwing off the blankets. Cold morning air bites on my exposed... What? Are we human? Causing a shiver to go down my spine. Hurling over to the closet, pulling some clothes. Sweatpants and one of Marshall's tees should work for now. I can always dress up later when you go out. Pulling the short my head is too big for me, but nevertheless it provides me a sense of comfort. Grab some of the hem and oh. Of course. Always have to do that. You know, citrusy scent, what? With my skin now covered, I can feel the warmth in my body once more. Look longingly at the bed, I wish it'd be wrapped under its thick covers again. Lazy ass. Give it a gentle pat on the way out the door. Don't worry, old gal, I'll be back soon. The fuck? The fuck? Way out of the kitchen, rubbing the rain sleep from my eyes. And just in time I catch Marshall finishing up pouring our coffees. Add some milk and a good amount of sugar to mine. To his, while leaving mine black. You take your coffee. Ew. Ew. Anyway, as he passes, still in a quick kiss. Instead of the coffee reaching my nose, beginning to stir me awake. Crazy how that works, isn't it? I take a sip of the hot bitter liquid and lets it aside, allow a sigh of relief. Coffee starts to work its magic as I feel a pit of warm down my stomach. The caffeine beginning to circulate through me. What the fuck's it? What? Why would you write it like that? Marshall looks at me and shakes his head in a mock, disapproving manner from his seat at the island. I'll still never understand you can drink that stuff straight. It's true. But with those words, his lips like concealed with regret across his face and was about to exit my mouth. It's probably the only thing I like straight. Oh my god. Fucking dad joke, really? Groans, trying to failing to hide a smirk as I show my own bad joke. Taking a hairpin to half of my wrist, put my hair in a bun. Oh. Neat. So let's taste my wife cook breakfast. In my prep, checking out the ingredients I never both breakfast and lunch. Since Marshall doesn't have any good food options near his work, I usually pack a lunch for him. I swear I don't. Why do we need to know this? With the ingredients we have today, our usual breakfast omelets are on the menu. They'll need more eggs soon, with the lunch being a BLT with extra bacon. Why do we need to know this? This isn't important, I don't think. Maybe it is, who fucking knows. Maybe I'll have to remember what exact ingredients are put in this fucking sandwich or some bullshit. Bacon was one of the foods we first bonded over before omelets, and has always been a favorite of Marshall's. Well, bacon's meat candy, so... I swear... Am I not even the main character? I'm always seriously Marshall in this. Fucking hell. Even I did when our meals wouldn't usually bacon, I made sure to pack him some. Gotta keep my wolf. God, how many times have I seen that fucking sentence in a Daster? Fuck that VN. It's like the two of us make the occasional small talk. The effects of the coffee helping us along. Speaking of food, what's for dinner tonight? Not sure yet. Somebody forgot to go grocery shopping yesterday. Wow. No. Don't put more. Marshall glances sheepishly down into his mug. Oh, cool. There's more than one Sprite for him. That's actually awesome. Come on, Deputy. I just want more time with you. Small creeps on my face trying to come with that nickname. Since his name was Marshall, I used to call me his deputy whenever I have to remind him something. It's cute. I'll go while you're at work today. You got any requests? His face brightens as his tail swish back and forth the corner of my eye. Something sweet. Typical Marshall and a sweet tea. Stop! I am the same. I like my coffee with sugar and creamer, and I forget things easily. Christ almighty. TV statements before my mind. Something sweet, huh? That can be done. Fucking hell. Good lord. I thought this didn't have that shit in it. I was meaning to give him a wink. Sorry, Marsh, but the cake will have to be saved for later. He flusters at that and buries his face in his eyes during the omelets. Rest of the meal's being comfortable silence. Good, no more of that horny bullshit. Like with the simplest food, my experience cooking that doesn't take long. Set the food in the can and went over to join him, filling my coffee as I go. Barely able to contain himself with the momentous attempt and shoveling the food into his muzzle. Of course he does. Why wouldn't he? Smile at the joy my cooking brings him, billing his tail occasionally whacking his food-filled bliss. Don't forget to chew. Push creeps out under his face and my comedy slows his pace, allowing me to start catching up on its progress. Sit there together and eat, not needing to speak, to just enjoy the presence of the other. Why are they taking so long to just describe their morning routine? I have a bad feeling about this. This is not gonna be a good oh boy. There are so many people I'd fallen for in the past, but none were quite like Marshall. Interesting, of course. Duh. I mean, you're fucking living together, no shit. No measurement. Good lord. Happiest time of my life when I'm dating him. Of course. Well, no fucking shit, you haven't. God, are you. Take your last 3 bites to bring the dishes in the kitchen. Marshall starts getting ready for work again. Slipping some extra bacon into his lunch bag for the sandwich, I go to meet him at the door. It takes me right for me to let him pull him into his strong, furry arms. Feeling the warmth once again, I look up at my wolf. Are you sure I can't give a shit on today? Good lord, you need fucking money, dude. He sighs, only wants to say as much as I want him to. Sorry, I ain't got any training in today. Plus, I need my sick days saved up for our vacation this summer. I know, but that doesn't mean I won't miss you. Give me a light laugh as I bow and raise the colors. Fucking hell. Miss you too. Stanley embraced from alarm for stepping apart. Love you, Alex. See you tonight. See you tonight, Marshy. What kind of nickname is that? Love you too. Like, you're literally using an adjective for his nickname. Why? I mean, whatever. We give each other one last goodbye because he steps out the door for work. Eyes me full up with the door shuts behind him. I swear they spent way too long on that scene alone. I have bad feelings. Left alone in the now silent apartment, aware of what was to come. Maybe it's just my experience with Echo in the smoke room and Burroughs that has me on edge about like this, because yeah, those games are known for treating their characters like punching bags, but still. Left alone in the silent apartment, unaware what was to come. Excuse? What? What does that mean? If only I try. I was correct. Here we go. Tragic backstory time. If only his alarm had never gone off that morning. If only we'd stayed in their bed together. Maybe that morning wouldn't have been the last time I saw you, Marshall. Christ. Oh, okay. Maybe we've been together when it happened. When the world as we knew it collapsed. What? Does that mean, like, figuratively as in your world with him, or, like, the entire world? Are we dealing with a post-apocalyptic story here? Because that'd be fucking awesome. That would genuinely be really cool. Dear Marshall, it's getting harder to keep track of the days now. They all sort of blur together into a congealed mess of memories. But, of course, I can't forget today. I dreamt of it last night. My mind's way reminded me what happened a year ago. It was the day I last saw you. Day of the apocalypse began. Your kid? Oh my god, really? Still searching for you, Marshall. I know you're somewhere out there. Someone like me can survive in this mess for so long. You sure as hell can. Oh my god. I am actually really happy it went this direct. I was thinking it was gonna go down the, oh, he got shot or something, but no. The apocalypse? That's fucking. I have not seen another VN do that, actually. For once, I'm thankful the torrents of rain the spring brought in this year. Some new pathways were cleared of the debris. expand my search radius. Hopefully this will give me some new leads. That is if... No, I can't think like that. I won't. If I do, there's no way I'll be able to make it through. I will find you. I promise. See you soon, Alex. Oh my god, wow. That is a fucking banger of a start. Oh boy. As I close the door, I lean back and stretch out my muscles to get rid of the morning exhaustion. Despite giving myself a few additional hours of rest this morning to wake up for what little sleep I'd gotten this week, the dream caused me to toss and turn all night. Wasn't going to let it stop me today, though. First part of my ritual complete. I moved on to my rest. Next, the inventory check. Matches, check. Water, check. Multi-tool, check. Usual list of items, satisfyingly marking them all down with their appropriate amounts. My current amount of rations was to be noted. I only had enough to last me a few more days, which meant I'd have to scavenge in the city soon. I returned everything back to its place, making sure the supplies were neatly organized. In the unlikely event I had to make a quick escape, it was always better to be prepared. From a makeshift spear, which consists of a kitchen knife screwed into a long metal pole, I stood in my tent to start the next part of the routine. This task required me to go outside and investigate. The perimeters check. Before I even had the chance to take a step out, a loud cling and a metal rang out from somewhere nearby. Something had just set up my makeshift perimeter alarm. Halted the flaps, silently waiting to hear what would come next. With no further sound provided, I slowly walked outside. Each step was hesitant and careful, not wanting to make an unnecessary noise. Thankfully, it was still daylight, and I used that fact to my advantage as I surveyed the area quickly. My camp was set up in a small clearing, trees shadowing the edges of it. The earth was relatively rough, with occasional patches of concrete debris scattered throughout the patches of yellow grass. Campfire at the center remained a mound of charcoal, the embers of last night's fire long since burned out. The sight seemed to be relatively undisturbed. I took a deep breath and allowed myself to give a more focused survey of the area and hone my mind on the situation. There are only 3 possibilities I could think of that could trigger the perimeter alarm. First, and most hopeful option, a simple wild animal. Probably one too close, trying to get a good look whatever had set up this unnatural nest in its space. Second, but manageable option, bandits. I'd encountered a group of them about a week ago, making sure to stay out of sight as I scavenged. Like I got away unnoticed with them and their rations. It was nice having the universe on your side sometimes. Third option was the worst of the bunch, one I didn't even want to consider because my thoughts managed to will it into existence. That moment I spotted him a moment from the corner of my eye. Gotcha. Just barely poking out from the tree. Nearby tree was the silhouette of a furred elbow. Cautiously, I began navigating around the sticks and rougher earth that littered the ground. I had to be stealthy about this. I had no clues to who had found my camp. They were an enemy. I needed to take the advantage of surprise. I needed the advantage of surprise on my side. Strayed closer and closer to the figure, moving like a faint breeze through the grass. They hadn't seen notice my presence yet, remained still in their place. Growing sense of discomfort began to gnaw at my stomach. This entire scenario didn't sit right with me. It was possible the person had run to hide after setting off the alarm, freezing in place behind a tree. That would confirm whoever it was had business with me, and it probably wasn't good. In that case, the best course of action would be to continue my approach and catch them off guard. Hopefully it'll be enough to turn the tide in my favor. Alternatively, there was another possibility, one that would benefit from me remaining where I was. As slim odds as they were, there was a chance that wasn't a person at all. What? Are we talking zombies here? Because, I would not dwell in this scenario. I'm just gonna say, I continue to approach the figure, deciding this is the best route to give me the route that would give me the best odds. If this was a single bandit, I could take them on with ease. Most of the time when I encounter one, they were just some dumb lackey who I could beat in a fire outsmart. This one seemed to be no different if he thought he was doing a good job at hiding from me. If it was abandoned, that is. No, it was. I wasn't going to consider the other option. Spear ready to take extra caution as I neared the tree. Began to circle it, not daring to even breathe in case they would hear it. The outline of a figure began to appear, and in one swift moment I raised my spear to the neck. All right, hands where I can see them. There wasn't even so much as a twitch on the figure. Maybe a threat would get them to respond. All it takes is one quick jab and you're dead. No bunny games now. Put your hands up. Push the spear tip slightly harder into the neck. Figure remained stock still, ignoring my threat. Continue my way around the tree, annoyed at the lack of response. Either you have nerves to steal your one dumb motherfucker. My sight no longer obscured, I was able to get a full glimpse at the person. A humanoid polar bear stood there, back pressed against the tree. His gaze was pointed toward the ground, and a tree branch was impaling him through his midsection. Well, shit! It was a trap. Out of nowhere, a loud shuffling sounded out from behind me and let my instincts kick in. Dodged out of the way in the nick of time, watching surprise as a blur of movement swept to where I'd been standing moments before. Rolling back on my feet, I take a look at the creature that attacked me. What the fuck? What is that? Art style is fucking cool though, wow. Takes a step out from its cover now in the open. The brief moments of sunlight that peek through the canopy as breeze causes the branch to shift allows me to take in the horrible sight and meet the gaze of two pitch-black eyes. The center of them are two scarlet irises that seem to pierce right through me, burning with a deep and primal anger. Ratty and sparse long hair framed its sunken face, the mouth open unnaturally wide as if the jaw were dislocated. The sideward rows of razor-sharp teeth, with two fangs the most prominent of them all at the front. Its skin had taken a dark and gray hue, pulled taut not just over the face but over the rest of its body too, highlighting the oversized bones within. It approached on all fours like a wild animal, the long, lanky limbs guiding it forward, claws leaving trails through the dirt. Of course it had to be this. Should have expected no less from the shit-show world. Third option was our winner after all. Faded. Barely had time to press my bad luck as another attack my way. Okay. Wow. That is fucking cool. I'm gonna save my thoughts till the end. Save my thoughts till the end, because who knows what's gonna happen. I parried the blow, but it caused me to lose my footing, yet I narrowly avoided the next strike. I was at a disadvantage here. There was little space for me to dodge, and I was way too close to the monster for comfort. Leapt backwards as its claws raked the earth once more, but I wasn't able to jump far enough, and the dust clouded my vision. There was a sudden and sharp pain in my side as I flung away, having been caught by a backhand smack. Stars swam across my vision on my backside, collided with a nearby tree. Fell onto my knees, wheezing from the breath being knocked out of me. This wasn't good. I've been careless. This was my punishment. Tried to stand up and failed, feeling myself running low on energy. Have to wait to get closer and hope I'd be able to land a final blow. If I failed, it all ended here. It wasn't fair that I would die here before I got to see Marshall one last time. I suppose life wasn't very fair in general. In a final act of resistance, I brought my head up to stare at the faded one last time, showing no fear in my eyes. No one allowed that satisfaction. However, as he locked eyes, there was a brief whistling before the sound of an impact against flesh. The creature suddenly released a cry of pain and whirled around, an arrow now protruding from its hind leg. It was searching through the brush, hoping to catch a glimpse of the attacker. There another pained cry as a second arrow hit it in the shoulder. Faded, forgetting about me, looked around, trying to spot the culprit. Big mistake. Using less my energy, I charged forward with a pained battle cry. Turned to run to attack, but I was already there. Using the swinging of its head in my full movement, I sliced the tip of the spear through its neck. A spray of blackened blood showered me as I stood there panting. Creature collapsed to the ground, dead, leaving me with the last man standing. Looks like I get to live another day. The exhaustion of the brief fight on my engines began catching up to me simultaneously, causing me to sink to my knees once more. Hey, you okay? A voice called from somewhere in the trees. Looked around, trying to find the source of it. Approaching me, I saw a silhouette of a figure carrying a bow and arrow. It was the last thing I saw while I was falling toward the earth below. And then I blacked out. Don't you dare say to be continued. Dear Marshall, I read online somewhere that keeping a journal is a good way to process your emotions. As cheesy as it sounds, like how much I miss you, amongst other things, of course, can't be just thinking of you all the time, now can it? Why am I trying to adjust myself to a book? Yes, this is supposed to only get through the times without you when I'm in the apartment alone. And no, it's only for a couple hours, but this place feels a bit empty when you're gone. Presence is so comforting that when it's not there, I feel like a small piece of myself is missing with it. We've been dating for a little over a year and a half now and aren't even in an apartment together. For most, it would seem too fast, but with you, Marshall, it feels just right. Never really knew just how good love could feel until I met you, and yet it's still surprising in a lot of ways. I've only just started to realize how much I rely on you. Whether it's to be there when I'm hurting or even just to have someone whose tail wags vigorously when you need my cooking, I've come to rely on that sense of joy that accompanies you. It helps me get through the days, especially the darker ones. At this point, I'm not sure what I'd do without you. I always patiently wait your return as well, waiting near the doors as the hours come to a close if I were the dog in this relationship. Yeah, I'm definitely not letting you see this journal. Feels a little bit silly to be writing all this down, keeping a cloud of my daily thoughts and emotions if they'd be important later. Same time, though, I can't deny how it is oddly comforting to have this to be able to look back at someday. I'm sure it'll provide me some good laughs as time goes on. Aside from that, though, when you get home tonight, it'll mark the start of the weekend, which means I'll have several days with you to myself. Well, I think that'll do as the first entry for now. See you soon, my wolf. Love, Alex. Christ! Fuck, that's depressing. Wow. Pain. That's the first feeling where me the line begins to drift back towards consciousness. I can feel the ache spread throughout my entire body. The soreness most concentrated towards my shoulder. Feels like I've been run over by a small semi-truck. Involuntary groan escapes my lips as I try to sit up and remove the blanket covering me. I have a bit of trouble trying to move my left arm for whatever reason, so I rely most on my right to move me into a seated position. Looking down, the arm is in some kind of makeshift sling strung across my chest. Shit, what happened? My voice comes out as slightly raspy and hurts my throat. Didn't want to look myself over, finding more than just the sling wrapped up. Covered in bandages, scattered across my arms, legs, and torso. Most of my clothing been removed, save my underwear. For as sore as I am, I can still tell that all this dressing is overkill, and I know for a fact I didn't have this much first aid with me in my last inventory check, which means somebody must have dressed my wounds, and were definitely overcautious when doing so. Who? There's a flash in my mind, and that it races to catch up on my missing members from earlier in the day. I fought a fade and almost lost to it, but I had not received lost to it had I not received help from that figure I saw before I blacked out. Were they the one that helped me? As if on cue, there's a shuffling sound from outside, and that familiar silhouette steps through the tent flaps. Oh, wow, it's a bat. Oh, that's fucking cool. Deep breaths, deep breaths. I'm sure he's just Oh! Staring down me is a tall, lanky bat frozen in place at the side of my now conscious form. His face almost seems wearing a mask, black fur covering it in contrast to the brown fur on the rest of his body. A body I can get a good view at due to his odd fashion choices. Or on his torso, he wears a black crop top, room left at the sides for his wings, but leaving his midriff exposed. Slung across his back is a quiver full of arrows, presumably the same ones that had shot the faded earlier. His legs are covered by a pair of jeans ripped and fading beyond belief. To accentuate all this, he wears a tattered light pink scarf draped across his shoulders. You... What voice? You're awake. Oh, thank God you're awake. I was so worried I'd messed everything up. He takes a step toward me, causing me to reach my spear on instinct. Forgetting to pat my arms in a sling, I jerk to the side and get myself off balance without me falling on my shoulder. A startled yelp escapes my lips and the suddenness of the impact. Bat rushes toward me, dropping the voice while I'm reaching out his hands. Try to wiggle away, but I feel him grab me and bring me into a sitting position once more. Easy there, you're still hurt. It's across me once I'm stabilized, but I glare at him with a look of distrust. It may help me, but I still don't know what his intentions were. I try to ask him where my spear is, but a cough comes out instead. It was on my dry throat. Reaches to his side and orders a canteen, unscrewing the cap and holding it out towards me. Hands begin to move upward, I hesitate. Even though I want to immediately grab the water, I err on the side of caution. I have no idea, no way of knowing what the liquid is safe to drink or not. Seeing this, the stranger brings the canteen to his own lips and takes an audible drink, a bit of water dripping out the side of his mouth. Say, perfectly safe. I promise I'm friendly. On the canteen, I hesitate for only a second before grabbing it, hungrily gulping down the water. Gasp relief like a air, feeling satisfied with the moisture now returned to my mouth. Pleased look crosses the face of the bat, one that seems to be genuinely happy that I'm okay. Catches me off guard, seeing that level of purity in his eyes. Something I haven't seen in so long, like not since our world began to fracture. Feel the walls I had built up lower a bit at that, parting at me wanting to trust him. Curiosity bubbles up inside, wanting to know more. Clear in my throat, I find my voice again. I appreciate the help, but I don't believe I got your name while I was asleep. He's actually cuter to me than Marshall was, honestly. He blinks a few times, processing that. His cheeks flush in embarrassment as he realizes he hasn't introduced himself yet. Oh, right. Of course, how could I forget? My name is Xavier, what's yours? Alex. Smile widens at that. Pleasure to meet Alex. How you feeling, by the way? I did my best to patch you up, but I didn't really have a lot of experience with first aid. Take the time around my arm and the sling, stretch another bit to get a feel for whatever damage Xavier. I don't even. Xavier? I don't know. Had thought I'd taken. Aside from the soreness, it didn't feel all that bad. Pain I had felt when I woke up, nearly non existent. All things considered, I think I'm fine, though all the bandages seem to be overkill. Gestured my near mummified body to accentuate my point. Such a small laugh at that and rose the back of his neck. Yeah, not my finest work. Let me redo them then, but this time you can take the lead. So the two of us get to work unwrapping the dressing, revealing many bruises underneath. Well, I'd usually never let someone. I just make it this close to me. I don't really have much of a choice. We're gonna have to rely on him a bit. Keep him close until more information. To our surprise, he found a very few cuts on my body. I'd expect at least for some reason. I'd expect at least some reason for the reaction, but the bruises would be the only reason for that, and even then it's not good enough. Although that doesn't quite explain the surprise, as if reading my mind, he starts speaking. I swear you looked a lot worse when I found you. You were completely covered in scratches and I could see the bruising starting. Should have been dislocated. I put it back in place while you slept. I explained the source of the area. Gave him a reassuring pat before I started to get dressed, my body no longer heavily wrapped. No need to worry so much about it. Better overdo it than underdo it when it comes to things like these. Sure you were just as scared after flying the faded. Stream with confusion stretches across his features. You mean the big monster thing? Little laugh at that. I suppose it's one term for that. Most just called him the faded, though. Something looked like hope sparked behind his eyes. There are others. More survivors like us. Of course there are. Seemed overjoyed at that as if it were best news he'd ever received. Been a year since the apocalypse. There was no way he hadn't encountered anybody else in that time. I knew something was off about Xavier, but I couldn't quite put my fingers on what. I looked at him again, thinking of my options. Although I had been somewhat injured from the last fight, what I could tell his main weapon was a bow. Long-range fighter in close quarters was at an obvious disadvantage. Definitely more muscle than him. He had some definition in his arms, but I was confident I could beat him in a fight if it came down to it. With that assessment out of the way, I was determined to get my answers. Who are you? No, I was certain to be caught off guard. I'm Xavier, remember? I know you said you were fine, but maybe you really did hit your head hard. Brushed off his hands, he tried to reach toward me, concerned. No, that's not what I meant. I was asking who you are, as in what's your story. How can you act so being innocent for all that's happened? How can you not know what a fate it is, or that there are other survivors after a full year? I'll ask you again, Xavier. Who are you? Xavier shifted to that, seemingly caught on my questions. Well, Scream started annoying, but I kept myself in check, even reining the earlier attitude back a bit about how the question sounded. Best way to get answers to someone like him was to be kind but direct. Besides, after seeing his bow skills earlier, he'd be better as an ally than an enemy. Take a deep breath, kid. You have my respect for seeing for that faded. You don't have to be afraid to tell me what happened to you. Taking a moment, the bat began to compose himself before speaking once more. It's not that I'm afraid to tell you. It's just something I'd rather not live. I felt a pang of sympathy at that, knowing the sensation all too well. You can keep the details scarce then. Just tell me you can. It'll help both of us. Take another deep breath before continuing. Simple, I can do simple. This will sound wild, but hear me out. When whatever happened, I was in a bunker. Blinked a few times, trusting his words. Bunker? Yes, my parents were unique in their beliefs, I'll say. We had a bunker, and as if that were a normal thing, and bunker cleaning was amongst my chores. I was down there when everything above ground happened. I tried to get out, but the hatch mechanism had been damaged. So I was stuck down there alone for, based on what I think you said earlier, nearly a year. A year. A full year stuck on with no view of the outside world. I understand now I didn't want to talk about it. That would have been his own kind of hell. How he managed to stay sane so long, I hadn't the faintest clue. I also explained why he has so little knowledge of everything going on out here. So many questions I wanted to ask, but I should get him to trust me more before I try to pry deeper. Still, there was something I had to know. How did you get out? Sad smile was on his face, something that made me feel guilty comparing it to what I'd seen from him earlier. And while what he'd shown was genuine, it was clear now there was a lot more going on under the surface. As it turns out, the foundation hasn't been as structurally stable as I thought. The water went away at one of the walls, causing it to break down suddenly, and the bunker to flood. Grabbed what I could and took one last breath before I swam to the surface. Not sure how long ago that was, maybe 3 days. It's hard to keep track of time when what is going on with the scar. Silence settled over us at that. Me, taking in everything I'd just been told, while Xavier relived the painful memories once again. Xavier was the first to break it. So, why'd you call me kid earlier? Tried holding a grin at that obvious subject change. She wanted to lighten the mood as we were willing to play along. Well, because she did. How am I a kid? Just from looking at you in comparison to myself, what's clear I have years in you. You look as old as I am. How old are you then? 25? Looked bewildered. 25? I'm 22. That's only a difference of 3 years. You're barely older. Definitely older to become a kid. I imitated a look of fake shock hanging in my chest. Oh, now come on, kid. Is that any way to be speaking to your elders? We stared at each other from where we burst out laughing. The tension moment now broken thanks to Xavier. Been a while since I laughed like this, let alone gotten along this well with somebody so fast. No, though, that could only last so long. So if we're gonna die, I could see Xavier going to ask me something else. Okay, so I answered some of your questions, but I still play on my own. Well, it's so different now compared to before. Now I don't even know where this is going. Don't have to tell me twice, I've lived through it. Fair is fair, though, and you deserve to know what's happening. I fucking love this. This is such a good way to give exposition without it seeming exposition-y. I love it. So, what do you want to know? Given that you know next to no knowledge of this new age, I'm sure he had a multitude of questions. There were very few similarities with what remained over the past year, with a lot of them having no proper explanation either. All I could do was try and answer his questions with what I'd seen or heard. A small sense of dread cut my spine, as if it knew whatever was next question would be, I wouldn't like it. How about when it all started? What was it like? That confirmed the sensation. He really had no time diving immediately to the hard-hitting questions. Suppose there was something admired in that, though, the avoidance of unnecessary topics. Thought back to that day, give an involuntary shudder at the memory. Are you sure you want to know that first? It's not exactly lighthearted stuff. If I didn't think I could handle it, I wouldn't have asked. I have a year to catch up on. I need to have some knowledge of everything. Determination in his voice told me I wasn't getting out of this then, and it was only fair to tell him something in return. Trauma for trauma, I suppose. Fuck. I closed my eyes as I allowed the waves of memories to wash over me. Oh boy. This is fucking cool. It was ordinary that day when it first started. Everyone was going about their usual morning habits. I was in my apartment, the clock having struck noon a little while prior. I changed to go so I could make a trip to the store. I had planned on making an assortment of baked goods. What on? Most my heads to the question. Cookies, tarts, an assortment of muffins. Just a variety of delicacies. Marshall's sweet tooth was never satisfied, so I wanted to make sure I had enough to last. Going to my list and double checking out everything, I was vaccinated from my arm when it started. I'd never experienced an earthquake before, and neither had most people who live here, so I was confused. Of course, we read about them in school, but it was a surprise to feel them. One. Tremors were gentle at first, rattling the objects on the shelves in my living room. I held onto a table and waited for it to pass. But it didn't. Instead, the tremors grew more violent. I made my way to the living room on unsteady feet, hoping to catch a glimpse of the chaos outside. And chaotic it was. I could see the other buildings shaking as well, cracks appearing in the pavement in the street below. People everywhere were stunned, unsure what to make of themselves. The earthquake worsened. Suddenly, fractures began to creep up the walls of a nearby building. Our infrastructure wasn't well equipped for a situation like this. A cloud of dust puffed out of the sides as the floor collapsed onto itself, causing the top half to lean and crash another skyscraper nearby. That is what finally broke people from their stupor. You could see the chaos breaking in the streets below as people began to flee. Those in their cars trying to avoid crashing as debris rained down from above. Couldn't let myself die here, though, so I forced my gaze away and began to gather a few things in new locations of. Running in my room, I took out my hiking bag from my closet, throwing in an extra outfit just in case. I grabbed my journals as well as a few mementos that were important to me. Lastly, I grabbed a knife from the kitchen and a pack of matches. I didn't know what was happening, but I wanted to prepare for anything. Took a look at my home once more, something telling me this would be the likely last I saw of it. My gaze then settled on the window outside. A complex from across the street was now falling victim to the quakes as well, and it seemed to be leaning in our direction. Wasting no more time, I flung the door open, dashing to the stairs and throwing myself down them. Although living high up had the advantage of view, the negative side of that being I had to ascend so many flights of stairs in such a brief time period. Past a few people were also fleeing, holding what little belongings they could manage. Reached upon the stairwell and held the door open, ushering the people out while I heard the impact from high above. Last person stumbled out the door. A young feline man about my age, and I grabbed them before they could fall, the two of us dashing across the lobby to get outside. People ahead of us had left, not bothering to wait around. With each moment that passed, the crashing grew louder as the building was collapsing. Holding my bag in front of us, I didn't bother trying to hurt the door handle, instead using the force of our combined weight to shatter the glasses out into the street. We rolled across the mirror just in time, a concussive blast of air sending us hurling further and faster as the building finished its collapse. I was left coughing and stunned. My ears were ringing from it all. It was disorienting, but I knew I couldn't stop. Hoping the man was alright and doing the same, I began to run. I wasn't sure where I was going. Instead, let my body take me where it wanted to go. However, as I fled, there seemed to be a kind of energy in the air. It began to build before it went out in a pulse. Cars stopped running. Lights flickered before going out completely. An airplane high in the sky above began hurtling towards the ground below. Not letting it stop me, I ran and ran until I was heaved and my legs had long pushed past their limit. When I eventually collapsed in the exhaustion, I found myself in the outskirts of town near a forest. I'd often hiked through, a place I was familiar with. The sky had changed too, now decorated with hues of twilight way too early. After a few minutes I sat up, taking a look at the city from afar. If I hadn't lived there my whole life, I'm not sure I would have recognized what it had become. Now it was a smattering of broken buildings, light reflecting off the shattered glass. I could only sit there and stare, not knowing how many lives had been lost or what my next steps would be. That's what it was like at the beginning. Wow. Bravo, that was fucking good. That was good. Opened my eyes again, seeing the familiarity of the inside of my tent and bringing a hand on my face, wiping the few tears that had fallen during the retelling. Looked over to Xavier, who wouldn't meet my gaze, legally ashamed of having me recap my trauma, comparing it to his own. I'm sorry, I didn't realize how tough it must have been for you. I never should have, cut him off with my hand. It's fine, and I'm fine. Everyone has their own story to tell, and it's only fair I share mine with you after everything. Silence once again passed over us as I waited for the next question, allowing both of us a few moments' respite. I guess it's true what they say. About what? People. Never judge a book by its cover, as the phrase goes. I don't think either of us could expect what the other was going to say. I doubt we could have ever even expected it to be a reality. Sure, some believe in the eventual end of the world, but nobody could have actually known that we'd be living it. Xavier gave me a small nod of a lot waiting for me to continue. I agree with you, everyone has their own life. It's impossible to tell what's truly gone on beneath the surface at just a simple glance. We both just prove that fact to each other. The way things are, everyone has suffered their own trauma. How they let it affect them is what matters. Do they succumb to it, giving her the darker intentions? Do these are to boost or grow stronger, to help them move forward and assist those around them? It's kind of the world we always lived in, but the effects now are increased tenfold. After my words for a few moments, Xavier spoke up. She was believed no matter what, there's always a way to recover. Everyone has the ability to improve themselves for the better. Maybe the harder route sometimes, but they'll get there one day, even if they need that extra push. Nobody is inherently good or evil, it's just the life they lead that shapes them. Sometimes you just have to help them reach a better mold. It's only broken now, but maybe one day it can be fixed. I hope to be on the side that makes it all okay again. Stared at Xavier, sharing a soft smile with him. It was a lot more insightful than I'd originally given it credit for, and it was nice to see optimism shine through. Everyone could use a little more of that kind of outlook, myself included. Hope to be there with you too, kid. For now, though, anything else you want to ask? Just one more question, and I'm sure you won't like the answer either, and I'll need some time to process everything you told me. What is that monster we fought? I thought you called it something started with an F? Faded. He snapped and shot me finger guns. Also one. Well, he was right about that first part. The answer to this wasn't something you like, and wasn't one I liked either. This is another heavy one, so I suggest you still yourself, as always there isn't a full explanation I can provide, but there are some things I can tell you for certain. Are you ready? Xavier took a moment for nodding to go ahead. To keep it simple, the Faded are people. Or at least they used to be. It was another cruel effect from the apocalypse. A few weeks after the initial incident, everyone was waiting for some kind of help. There were many injured, hoping to be treated, others trying to find lost family. They waited and waited, but after a while, it started to become clear no help was coming. It was at that moment that the first Faded emerged. A small encampment of survivors had gathered together, hoping that somehow they'd find a savior amongst them. Instead, they were met with the gurgle of their own blood, choking out their prayers as the creatures slashed at their throats. More began to appear after that, seemingly out of nowhere. It wasn't until two friends were together that the change was first witnessed. One of them watched their partner die before them a few days prior, and it broke them. A friend tried comforting her, but she was too lost in her own grief. They woke up in the night to see their grieving friend beginning to change, taking on a more monstrous form and insatiable bloodlust. They tried calling out to her, but it was too late. Their voice landed on deaf ears. That's why we called them the Faded. They're nothing more than the husk of their former selves, little aspects that once gave them heart. They come in a variety of shapes and sizes, each with their own defining traits and displaying varying levels of intelligence. It's rare you'll find two of the same kind, however, which is both a blessing and a curse. No matter what, though, it's best to avoid them at all costs. We were lucky to have made it out today. Most share a worst fate. To make gaze on my feet, and back to Xavier was staring at his own now. It wasn't something too easy to learn about, and I even had trouble believing when I first heard it. What hurt the most was the fact that we had killed something that had once been a person. Someone like us. Crumbling over the side of the tent, dripping arm across his shoulder. Probably could have spared some of the gorier details, but it was important. He knew what he was up against, what these creatures really were, and what they were capable of. He leaned in toward me, needing this much more than I did. I no longer had any suspicions of been faking anything he told me. Xavier would need an ally in this world, someone he could trust. Right now I had to be that person for him. As I sat there, I could feel the exhaustion pulling at me once more, my body not quite done in its recovery despite having slept several hours. It occurred to me then that I hadn't actually checked what time it was. We began to rummage inside, and searching for the item I was after. It was only after a few moments that I found it, a small golden pocket watch. Moving my hand began to turn it over in my hands. Flipping it open, I could see the small hand pointing toward the 6, the minute hand 12:15. That might have been over nearly 7 hours now. No wonder Xavier had been worried about me. For clothing, I run my thumb over our engraved initials inside, the emotions beginning to bubble up. It's a gift from Marshall to give me a last birthday before the apocalypse. Smile at the memory. Told him not to get me anything that year, but Wolf always liked to rebel against things like that. Never forget the line he said when he gave it to me, one that was corny as hell. It's helping keep track of all the time spent lost in my eyes. There was a small pang in my heart at that, but I closed the pocket watch and turned my attention back towards my companion. Alright, I think that's enough for now. I have a few things to do, but I would appreciate if I got a head start on the fire for us. Think you can manage that? Give me a small nod of acknowledgement, remaining seated. Went back to my pack and grabbed the few things I needed, taking the fire, starting supplies, and leaving them next to Xavier. Whenever you're ready. Opened the flaps, the tent was now able to get a view of the aftermath of the fight. Scattered debris aside, the place remained relatively the same, the only signs of the fighting being the now dried black blood that coated the ground. As I'd seen a glimpse of earlier, the site was now illuminated by the glow of the twilight sky. The remaining rays of warm light were just bright enough that I could move on to the task at hand. There were bodies that needed to be investigated. Midway over to the Faded first, the now unmistakable reek of death overpowered my nose the closer I got. Opening one of my journals, I started my inspection of the corpse. No recent additional external damage seemed to present itself that wasn't resulting from our fight. However, there were a few scars along its body that had long since healed. Just those few facts alone already told me some things. First, without this was to have been an older Faded. Not one that had been around since the start, but not a fresh victim to transformation either. Second was that we had clearly not been its first quarry. There was no telling just how many it had killed during its reign, but at least some had a fighting chance. Lastly, the creature had not fed in a while. Pairing the lack of prior wounds with the fragile state it seemed in, skin tight around the elongated bones, gave me the picture that the fight with us had been out of desperation and greed. There was still more info I needed to glean before I could establish a proper theory, so I continued my investigation. Nothing else could be seen to be out of the ordinary, but I was about to move on when I noticed a splash of color near its mouth. Red. Leaning in closer to make out traces of blood near the two fangs I had seen earlier. Making a mental note of that, I walked over to my next task. Approached the second body, the stench of death began to lessen. In fact, there was barely a trace of it coming from the polar bear. I was able to get a better look at the man since the impending threat had been reduced to a rotting mound. He appeared to be in his mid-30s, clothes and fur, covered in a layer of grimy leg picked up from traveling. From the way his clothes hung off of him, he could have easily been written off as skinny. However, it seemed as though his fur was unnaturally baggy as well, despite having a healthy sheen. The tree branch he was impaled on had a distinct lack of blood on it, only a few trickles drained into the wood. This was definitely a secondary wound, one received after death. Moving the body off the branch only took me a few seconds to find what I'd been looking for. Bingo. On the back of his neck were 2 puncture marks, the clothing just below it having sucked up a bit of blood. Just as I thought, the creature had bitten him and sucked the moisture from his body. The missing fluids explain why he looked deflated and lacked the smell of rot, the bacteria having a harder time festering on dried flesh. The pieces of the puzzle had now fallen into place. Fated don't have a tendency to venture out this far usually, preferring to remain in the ruins that was once a thriving city. It had either just struggled to find life or been driven out of its territory by another of its kind. Sorry, it had made its way out here on a whim, entered the creature's stroke of luck when the polar bear appeared. Sneaking up on the unsuspecting victim, the monster seized the opportunity and bit down, drained hydration from the man. Then nearby, it spotted my camp. Must have believed today was a miracle, the possibility of more food driving his greed. Laid the trap then, placing the polar bear against a tree and triggering the alarm, whether on purpose or by accident I couldn't know. It waited in the shadows then, overconfident, dowsing its corrupt minds that hoped to play with its food. Fortunately for it, there had been 2 of us, and we gained the upper hand. Couldn't possibly know how much my system had been accurate, but it helped me to process it all, making it easier to handle this if I were a TV detective. Now me a sliver of separation from reality is something much needed. There was still one question on my mind, though, and that was why the man was nearby in the first place. Searching the body, I began to rifle through the pockets for a clue about his identity. They were mostly empty, aside from a few basic survival items like a pocket knife. Opening his jacket, led what I immediately was looking for. Sewn in just below the collar was a goat with a golden thread, was a symbol of a house with its doors open, something I recognized. The symbol of haven. Took about 2 hours and was relatively shallow, but I managed to dig a grave for the fallen bear. Although I didn't know him, he still deserved it as best of a bear as I could give him. I had taken a moment to cut the symbol out of his jacket, deeming that it would be useful later on. The sun had finally vanished from the sky, like most things lit by the moon. Campsite, however, was embraced by the warm light of a fire, successfully lit by Xavier, who was sitting nearby. Walked over and sat next to him quietly. Seemed to be doing better now. There was more of a weight in his shoulders. There was now more of a weight in his shoulders, the invisible burden of the newfound knowledge dragging at him a bit. Helen up. I know you got a lot on your mind after today. His gaze was focused on the flames as they licked at the air hungrily, the crackle of burning wood accompanying the sight. Better than I thought it would be. Still a little questions, but I appreciate the straightforwardness. As a comfort of knowing what awaits me out there, then remaining oblivious, thank you for that. Smiled softly at him, happy to hear it. In a lot of cases, people will shield others from the horrors of the world, leaving them not knowing what to do when they come face to face with them. It's better he knew when he did, and to have him up unprepared for later. The world is so much different now. Something I can tell even though I haven't been bubbed around long. It's surprising how much can change in a year. Something could be said before all this happened, though. The way the world's going, all the new technological advancements, creativity higher than ever been, and interesting scientific discoveries. Each year you could reflect on the previous one and be shocked at the comparison. Society had really come far. Xavier cringes slightly at that. It's a good point, I guess, so it still hurts to have to describe it in the past tense now. Gave a sigh, empathizing with the poor boy. Not sure that something will ever get easier. Smell saw formed in Xavier's muzzle. It doesn't mean we can't get back to that one day. As if there wasn't given a second chance. Society is a fresh start to build something new. Things might be difficult right now. It's always the brightest storm when the night ends. So I'll make sure we part the clouds that block the way so we can really get the chance to shine. Heart warmed a little his words, knowing that despite what he learned today, he could still hold on to that sense of optimism. Felt myself growing that same smile he was wearing, his positivity almost infectious. And positivity was something I could use more of my strange new life. But my shoulder against his whined and my smile. Careful now, Xavier. Keep talking like that, might mistake you for a hippie. And we reached the 1 hour mark. Cool. We both let a chuckle at the joke, feeling some of the good vibes starting to return. Spoken or not, might I ask some more questions, Alex? Nodded, since where the conversation was headed. Hit me with them, kid. Rolled his eyes at me, caught a kid once more, and continued. What exactly is the deal with the whole daylight cycle? It seemed to be twilight for an awful long time earlier. Feels too early to be not. I mean, we barely even got any proper sunrise. To ponder his question, thinking of the best information that I could provide him that wouldn't ruin the ongoing mood. There's not really a clear answer to that, since we don't have the access to the proper tech to figure it out. However, everyone has their own theories. Crazier ones often said it was the work of a coven of witches, finally enacting a century-long curse, or that the government shrank the sun. More believable theories state that something caused the Earth to shift and knock it off its axis. New rotation causes us to spend most of our time in a state of twilight. Seems to contemplate that for what we're not as if he had decided on something. I think the witch's theory is more fun, so we'll go along with that. And a chuckle of approval to his response. Silence came over us with Xavier looking at his feet before making eye contact once more, his smile now twitching slightly. There's a different kind of nerves to his features now, not one scared that woke with something more personal. I do have one more question though, something I wanted to mention earlier. Hit me with it. Who was Marshall? My breath immediately caught in my throat. I guess I let his name slip when explaining things. Each time I thought about him, how he wasn't here next to me, my heart skipped a beat. But his hand rested on my shoulder and squeezed in reassurance. You don't have to tell me if you don't want to, it's up to you. I appreciate the support, I don't mind telling you though, it's better to talk about things, let them simmer. Take a deep breath before starting. Marshall is my boyfriend. I last saw him on the morning of the apocalypse, but there's been no sign of him since. He's out there though, I know he is. If he weren't, I'd feel it. He's my everything, and I'll do whatever it takes to find him again, no matter the price. Xavier gave me a grin, pulling me into a side hug. Faith, you'll find him too. Spent the remainder of the night in silence, together sort of reveling in each other's company. Xavier shared some of his rations with me, not acknowledging my protest that I had enough for myself. We'd only been for a few hours together, and yet there was sort of pull from him, one that made me feel safe. That I could open up to him about anything, that I could trust him. And trust is a scarce resource nowadays. Stood up, stretching my back as the fire began to die down. Alright, kid, we should rest now. We got a big few days ahead of us. He shot a confused look at that. What do you mean? What's happening? Taking the emblem pocket, I tossed in his direction. He snatched it out of the air. Opened his palm, looking the symbol over. What is this? The symbol of community has established itself in the ruins of our world. A place where people are safe within its walls. They call themselves Haven. Tomorrow we depart. It's time to pay Haven a visit. Oh, of course. Of course. Ooh, that was good though. Yeah, it's 2 a.m. Sue me. Sue me. Fuck. Okay, so it's time to fucking talk about this fucking thing. Holy shit, another one that caught by surprise. We had Burrows when I started playing that I was like, is this gonna be good or not? And then it blew me the fuck away. Same with this, although Burrows had a much more immediate hook for me with like, oh, it's the 1920s. That had me hooked immediately because I was like, ooh, a historical story, that's fucking cool. And then it hit me with the 1-2 punch of like, oh, you're in the 1920s, but now you're going to the 1960s, and you can track your different periods. Like that fucking hit me like a truck. Anyway, enough about Burrows. This thing, this fucking VN, I fucking with how much time they spent building up their daily routine, I knew something bad was gonna happen. There's no fucking way there wasn't. You don't do that normally, but the way it progressed from there was so cool. That I have not seen a VN cover this in a lot of ways. Like I don't think I've ever played one that was a post-apocalyptic. Fucking love that, man. That's so cool. I'm actually fucking hyped now. I wasn't expecting this. I wasn't. The way they introduced the world, like, they didn't give any explanation. They didn't have the main character go, this is what happened. In his head, there was a reason to, because Xavier was new. He was, yeah, that was so good. The fact that they found that, like, a natural way to deliver exposition like that. And boy, oh boy, the writing. I like the writing a lot. Characters have me hooked. The story is, God, I am fucking hyped. I'm following this dude on Itch.io now. Anyway, it is 2:02 a.m. right now. My battery is at 40%. I will see you Oh, I just realized that this is the. Oh my. I hate that. Anyway, see you next time, guys.